7:30, and I'd like to hand over to you, Aunty Fay, because we're going to invite you to welcome all these beautiful people. Oh, we see your face just for a moment. Hello, Donna. You're about to disappear. It's like, oh, there you are. You're going to be disappearing, but we know you're all there. So, Aunty Fay, can you start us off with a welcome to country?
Certainly. Woman Jika, Miram Big Big, Bunwarang, Name Deer, Barupton, Putawillam. Welcome to the land of the Bunwarang peoples, the land of the Great Bay, Port Phillip Bay and Western Port Bay. I'd like to pay my respects to my elders, past and present, and to any elders who are also joining us tonight. I welcome you as we all walk on country together and walk in our ancestors' footsteps. So thank you.
How beautiful to have the language resonating across Zoom land, across this community. Lisa, would you like to join Aunty Fay with an acknowledgement to country from where you are?
Thank you, Aunty Fay. That was beautiful, and I'd like to acknowledge Aunty Fay, her ancestors, all her mob of the Bunwarang people, and the young ones who are coming up. And I'd also like to acknowledge the Gunai people from the country that I'm living on here, who share with the Bunwarang people. So I acknowledge all elders, past, present, and spirits of the land, and I thank those spirits and countrymen for caring for us in our creative work.
It's beautifully said. And while you were saying that lovely acknowledgement, I could see Uncle Anthony Egan logging on, one of the elders. And so thank you very much for being here, Uncle Anthony, and any other people from First Nation heritage. You're warmly, warmly welcome to be here. I'm on Milau, and you may have noticed that people are increasingly saying Milau instead of Phillip Island, which is a wonderful thing. I'd like to say thank you to the ancestors who've cared for this beautiful country for thousands and thousands of years. To say thank you for the power of this place, and to think ahead to the people who will be here long after all of us are gone, and the strength of the country to sustain life through the past, right through to the very distant future. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. My name is Laura Brearley. We're being joined by two dear friends and colleagues of mine, Aunty Fay Stewart-Muir. Her nom de plume, her writer's name is Faye Muir, but we know her as Aunty Fay Stewart-Muir. And Lisa Kennedy, a tall Woolway woman from northeastern Tasmania. All three of us have collaborated on many projects over many years, but I'm going to kick us off with an introduction just so you know the fullness of these women, the richness of the tradition that they are bringing to this conversation. Before I do that, I would just like to ask you to hold off on using the chat function until we get to the Q&A session of the conversation, which will be around 8:10. One of the reasons I've found while I've been undertaking Zooms, both hosting and participating in them, I feel like sometimes when there's a chat conversation going on, it's like there's kids passing notes at the back of the class. And there's often something really wonderful happening that the guest speaker is talking about, and the conversation sparks another response, and there's another set of ideas to take in. And we would like, if we could, as much as we can in this virtual environment, to demonstrate what deep listening looks and feels like. Virtual as it is, we can still listen with every part of our being. We'll be talking in more depth about what deep listening means to Aunty Fay and Lisa during the course of our conversation. But for now, if you can just focus, I don't know where you've been today, but here we are now together, this very, very precious time in the company of these two extraordinary women. So Aunty Fay, here we go. Aunty Fay is a highly respected elder and leader in the fields of health, education, language revival, cultural advocacy, and education. She was born in Swan Hill on Wamba Wamba country into a culturally strong and closely knit family. She's a freshwater and saltwater woman with Wamba Wamba heritage on her father's side and Bunurong heritage on her mother's side. She makes a significant contribution to cultural events in Victoria and is a state-appointed Koori Court Elder. As a specialist in Aboriginal language, Aunty Fay contributes to language revival across the state through her work at the Victorian Aboriginal Corporation for Languages. She also collaborates with artists, writers and musicians in intercultural and environmental arts projects. This year, Aunty Fay was inducted into the Victorian Honour Roll of Women, and I just want to do a call out to beautiful Kay Setchers, Aunty Kay Setchers, who established that in her time as a minister. Thank you for allowing Aunty Fay to be acknowledged and many other women besides within that framework, Kay. Aunty Fay is the author of a number of books, which we'll be talking about tonight. One of them is called Respect, which she co-authored with Sue Lawson. Lois Gaspin has been selling that at Turn the Page. She's also written a book called Nganga, which is Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander words and phrases. So she began with Marianne Ballantyne, beautiful publisher, initially through Walker Books and now through Magabala Books. There's a number of books in this series, these concept books. Family is also out and more will be coming. So that's the official, just a tiny part of the depth of Aunty Fay. Thanks for enduring that, Aunty Fay. It's hard, isn't it?
It is, Laura.
Oh. Did you want to add anything about yourself, or will you just reveal yourself as the conversation goes?
I'll just reveal as I go along.
All right. One thing that is being revealed as you sit there, see those beautiful baskets behind Aunty Fay? People know she loves baskets, and so they've all been gifts. And I suspect, is this right, they come from all different parts of Australia?
They do. They
Yeah.
do.
So it's lovely to have that sense of all these other elders and wise women sitting behind you. And now to dear Lisa. Lisa started as a student of mine, which was kind of absurd because she was my teacher, but I think that's how we began in your Master of Visual Arts. But Lisa is a visual artist, a storyteller, an author, and a descendant of the Trawlwoolway people of northeastern Tasmania. In her creative practice, Lisa collaborates with First Nation elders and artists and has illustrated award-winning books about country. She began writing and publishing books back in 1994. So this was one of the early ones, Liel's Spirit Bird. There it is, Lisa Kennedy. There's a long tradition. There's another one, Nick's Amazing Journey. Lisa Kennedy. And then there were two beautiful books about Warramatiena. Here's one of them. This is Warramatiena and the Magic Canoe. And Aunty Fay, Lisa and I have sat in many school classrooms and read that book, as we have this one, another in the Warramatiena series, The Call of the Sea. Then many of you will know, I think, the book that Aunty Joy Murphy collaborated on with Lisa called Welcome to Country, which has won a number of awards, the Environmental Award, the Children's Literature Award, and the other one, which is a collaboration with Aunty Joy again, with Andrew Kelly, called Willem, a Birrarung Story. That's about the river, the Yarra River in Melbourne. So there's a rich literary tradition. Right now, Lisa is working on 10 double spreads for a book with a Tasmanian elder called Aunty Patsy Cameron. And some of you may know her work. This is an older one of hers, I think based on her doctorate, Grease and Ochre. I know Marg Lynn is with us. Hi, Marg, who's one of the co-chairs of the Reconciliation Group. And this is a beautiful book in which she reframes the narrative of colonisation and gives agency to the Aboriginal people, the Bass Straits Straitsmen, she calls them. So Lisa will talk more, I think, about what that's feeling like to collaborate with an elder on her own country. Lisa, how was that to experience all those things in the first person while you sit there?
Very integrating. Haven't had that before.
Well, there you go.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Laura. Thanks so much.
Well, we'll hear more from you now in the first person. Aunty Fay, I wonder if we can begin with you. Knowing you grew up on Wamba Wamba country and your father used to take you out and show you the animals and you learned how to track the animals. You love the river gums, the Murray gums, and the smell of the soil up there. And then your mother comes from the ocean. Oh, sorry, darling, that's my husband's speaker talking to us. We'll come back to that in a moment. Tell us what it was like growing up, Aunty Fay, the daughter of a shearer.
It was, growing up was a beautiful time in my life because I grew up with mum and dad, but dad was away a lot. So I was with my grandmother and grandfather and cousins. So that was the extended family that I lived with until I was about 5 out in the Murray and the Mallee. Out from Swan Hill. And when Dad came home, he and I used to go out on country and just spend time sitting and listening, and him telling me stories about the animals and the birds and showing me the tracks of those animals, and just in discussion about, you know, life, country, and how we fitted into that special place on our country, which was the Wamba Wamba country. Growing up, I had cousins to grow up with. There was 2 older cousins, and my girl cousin was about the same age as me. I had a brother, but he was only a baby at that time. So I spent a lot of time out on country myself. I loved just being there, playing. I was a bit of a tomboy, so there was lots of trees around, especially this beautiful old peppercorn tree that was right next door to the house. So I was always climbing that and just sitting there and just taking time to listen to what was around me. One particular night, Dad came home from shearing and he brought a very special pet home for me. I didn't see it till the morning. And it was a little black pig, a wild pig that he brought home. We called it Georgie Boy, and he grew up to be a great big old pig, but he used to just jump out of the sty and go rabbiting with the dogs. So, you know, any time that we were driving into Swan Hill, we'd see Georgie Boy and the dogs, and they'd be digging in the dirt. And, you know, the dogs had had the red dirt on their nose, and so would Georgie Boy. They just all look up and go back to doing what they were doing. And visitors used to always be amazed when they saw this happening when they'd come out to see us. But being with my grandparents, my beautiful Nan and Pop, who were Mum's mum and dad, my Mum's mum and her stepfather, they taught all of the grandchildren such a lot about being respectful for elders, being respectful to each other, and especially being respectful to the land in which we lived. When I was going to school, we had to ride about 3 miles down this sandy track, and I had a bike that was given to me at Christmas time, and it was a fixed wheel bike. So, you know, you couldn't stop, you had to put your foot on the front wheel to stop yourself. And if you were going over anything, you just put your feet up and away you went. It was just such fun. And as we were riding past, there was a kumquat, no, not a kumquat, a quandong tree. So certain times of the year when the quandong was ripe, we'd stop on the way home from school and have a feed. So it was bush tucker that was there for us, wild peach. So it was just beautiful. Sometimes we'd get there and they would disappear. My nan had already been down and picked them to make jam for us when we got home. So we'd have jam and fresh scones when we got home from school, which is, I can still smell it.
What a treat.
Yeah.
And your mum used to cook breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner for all the shearers. She used to get up really early, didn't she, and do all that cooking?
She did. This is when we moved down to the Western District. Mum was the shearer's cook. My brother was only 18 months old. And so she used to have, as Laura said, all those meals to prepare. We had a beautiful old kitchen, like a kitchen oven, which was like a pizza oven that would be going all the time. And, you know, when it was hot, it was hot. And, but the beautiful food that she used to cook was just great. And I used to go up with the overseer to take the morning and afternoon teas up to the shearers. And Dad, when I was up there, Dad used to make me a bed in amongst the wall. So even now when a trucker's sheep go past, I can still smell that lanolin. It's just beautiful.
I love that idea of the tenderness of a father who loves his little girl and this big blokey shearing shed, and there's a sweet little girl. And I think sometimes didn't you curl up on the wall and you'd have a little sleep in the atmosphere of the shed?
Yeah, I did. I just loved it.
It's a very tender vision, that one. And so that's moving you closer to the ocean when you moved down to the Western District. And can you tell us a little more about your saltwater heritage? What happens to you when you step off the ferry, when you come across from Wadawurrung country where you live and you come across to Bunwurrung country? What does that feel like when you come onto your own land?
Well, when I come across, the first thing I do is say hello to the ancestors and ask them for permission to be on country, and to tell them that, you know, it's really great to be back home again. So that, you know, I do that when I'm leaving as well. I say goodbye to the ancestors, because Sorrento and down to Point Nepean is a women's place, so it's very, very special to me.
It's a very powerful thing you say, and I know, Lisa, you too. Oh, Leslie, darling, you seem to be muted. Can you just unmute yourself? Or maybe that's a Vanessa thing.
I think it might be.
Can you unmute Lisa? Thank you so much for that beautiful story, Aunty Fay. We're going to talk in a moment, when we can hear Lisa, about her own relationship with her ancestors, which, like you, is very, very intimate. It's very close, and it's part of daily life. I think, Vanessa, it might need to be you. I don't know that you can override it, Lisa. Vanessa, can you hear us? And there you go. Now I can hear you. So Thank you for that story, Aunty Fay. And now we're going to hear a little more from Lisa about her own upbringing. You were brought up on the Maribyrnong River, and I know that in those days that was almost on the edge of Melbourne, and you were keenly aware of the bush and the water catchment area and the way in which the streams flowed into each other. Can you tell us a little more about the formative nature of being close to water and how that felt for you growing up in your formative years?
So the river was very, very close by. We were a little bit higher than the river. It was hilly, and there were still a lot of creeks that would run over the concrete and roads that were built on top of old creeks. So we always, there'd always be talk of, down where the creek was, or down at the bottom of the street, you know, where the creek runs. There was less of that, obviously, as I got older, but I was always very aware that we were living in a catchment of little tributaries that would run into the big river. And I even remember, I've even got a photo of my younger brother Martin and myself swimming in the gutters. It must have been after a really big rain and after maybe a bit of a drought. The gutters were flooded because that's what would happen. They'd turn into rivers. I can't imagine doing that these days, but we were just about flowing down the street, and they were very narrow little streets. And Mum didn't have a car, so we walked everywhere. We'd walk to the shops, we'd walk to the showgrounds. So to do that, we'd have to cross the river. So we were crossing the river, going under the river, we were going across bridges. To go out towards Geelong, we'd be going over bridges. You know, everywhere in our environment was sort of not dominated, but you know, the river was just a living, breathing entity in our environment. Having said that, I was very aware of the fact that it wasn't well looked after, and so from a young age, I used to have a quiet dream that one day all the trees and all the spirits of the land and all the people would come back and I would meet them. And that actually did start to happen as time went by, and community actually suddenly appeared to me. And it was a beautiful feeling every generation. That was probably when I was in my 20s, and my eldest son was born, and him and I would go up and sit on a rock overlooking the Maribyrnong Valley, the huge, beautiful, big valley, and we called it the Rock, and he still goes to the Rock. And in those early days, there was just a few trees planted, and I'd go up there with my little boy, no car, we'd just sort of, you know, hike up there, push the pusher. And I used to actually sing to the old people down on the riverbanks, and this is in Aunty Joy Murphy's country, which of course, you know, this inspiration flowed into her story. And I used to feel that I could hear those old people responding. And now my son walks in that bush that has grown, and in those days was still little seedlings inside their little, you know, their little green plastic things. So he took me there just 2 months ago. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. It was bush.
So you felt the quality of care that has come in the years intervening.
Oh yeah. The regeneration was magical. Yeah, it really was.
One of the themes of our conversation is connecting to country, and I'm wondering whether you could say a little more about the way in which your own practice is informed by those conversations you have with the ancestors and with the country itself.
Sure. Well, so I guess going back to that, being aware from a young age that the spirits of the land were around us and with us, and that they weren't always visible, but they were there, and that if you talked to them and connected to them, they would respond. I guess my challenge was, well, it didn't begin as a challenge. I guess it became a challenge for me, or a wonderful job for me to do, to paint them for elders to tell their stories and connection to spirit and country. But in the early days, I guess I just let whatever come out. You know, it was just my piece of paper and my chalk, and I would do a one-off painting with my soft pastels, and then I did another one, and I just was doing them for myself. And suddenly it was just so wonderful. I couldn't believe what was happening. It felt like suddenly the here was a tangible, very visible, very physical connection that I could suddenly share, whereas before I couldn't. There was very little way to share that feeling, that connection to country and to spirit of country and ancestors.
That's so beautifully said. And I think that is one of the reasons why the collaborations you've been doing with Aunty Fay and with Aunty Joy and now with Aunty Patsy have the power and the depth that they do. That for you it's important to be able to convey these messages and the knowledge that you live by. I'm feeling it might be helpful at this point to start looking at some work that Aunty Fay and you, Lisa, have collaborated on. And Vanessa, I'm wondering if you could bring up the screen share of the internals, that's a new word I've just learnt, that's publishing speak, for the Respect book, on which Aunty Fay collaborated with Sue Lawson with the words and Lisa did the images. And so Vanessa, sorry you feel so disembodied. I know you're there, this living, breathing, gorgeous 3D woman. Can you just roll us through a few pages? And is it possible to unmute both Aunty Fay and Lisa at the same time? Is it possible to have all three of us unmuted at the same time? Because at the moment I can see Aunty Fay's still got a red mic. So while we've got you, Lisa, can you keep rolling, Vanessa? Can you keep rolling? There we go. Our way is old.
Oh, Aunty Fay, you're very much a part of this. This was, oh gosh, yeah, based on my absolute blessing of a relationship with Aunty Fay and all that she taught me by over those years of working together. Seems to be mostly on Phillip Island. I'm sure there were times off Phillip Island, but we were often together, part of the Shearwater Festival, maybe the Whale Festival, and the collaborations that we were doing with other artists, musicians, songwriters, and of course with Aunty Fay's language work. Just in amongst it all, I was so lucky to have conversations and listen to you, Aunty Fay. And so, of course, I drew from all of that for this story of respect.
Vanessa, is it possible to unmute Aunty Fay at the same time? It would be so helpful if we could have Lisa and Aunty Fay together. Maybe not?
No.
I'm sure it must be. I'm sure it must be.
But Aunty Fay can hear us.
Yes, Aunty Fay can hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Oh, great. Oh, that's better. That's better. Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Because the other theme of our conversation is about creative collaborations, and I'm really interested to hear how you work together on this to combine the words, which are so lyrical, and the text. So thank you, Vanessa. Let's keep going and just stop on this one. Let's just stop. That's it. Can you tell us about what that process of collaboration looked like?
Well, it was our words that we put down, and Lisa brought it to life with her art. So it was working that way. Sue and I would do the wording, and it was just the way Lisa interpreted our writing and brought it to life, because it is a children's book.
Yeah. Where is this image from, Lisa?
Well, what I did try to do was bring it back to the times and places I'd been with Aunty Fay in her country, and so of course we'd walked out amongst the burrows. They're called rookeries. That's right. And so much of our collaboration, which is stories and teachings that Aunty Fay was involved in, were around the birds, or the birds were the sort of the, they held the stories as the vehicle for bringing in knowledge and bringing people together. So it was very much a community event. And so I honoured that by connecting it to Respect for Stories that shimmer through tall grass, because that place brought so many people together in the past and in the present, and I'm sure in the future.
Yep.
So we're looking at Cape Woolamai on
Oh, yes.
Malal, and we're seeing Bioden, the Bunbarang word for the shearwaters. Vanessa, can we keep on rolling? Because we're about to see a batail. And there's Ruth Chambers. We've sung a lot of songs that Aunty Fay very generously has gifted us Bunbarang language about the batail. Keeping on going, Vanessa.
Tail.
And now here we have links to Lisa's Troll Woolway heritage. If you take us to the next image, Vanessa, the songs that soar over mountaintops. Do you want to say anything about that, Lisa?
Yeah, well, apart from the links to Tasmanian mob here on the northeast coast, on the northwest coast, apart from that, it is talking about the connections to how our songs, you know, travel from our past, which of course is, you know, ever present. So no matter what the distance or where we are, the connection is there. And in this story, I've used symbols that eventually add up to become about what we carry within us. And so everything's accumulative here. So here we have the little flame robin bringing in, you know, a sense of warmth and courage and connection. But as we see later, that flame robin is also being worn and carried within, as represented by the dress. That,
Let's keep going. Vanessa, can you keep rolling? No, we'll stop on this one. Are you aware of this one, Aunty Fay, that both you and I are in this image? Did you know that?
I can see it now.
I've got to say, I've got to show it. See that lady in aqua with a bubbly hat on?
Yes.
My husband, Terry, who I love dearly, absolutely hates my winter hat, which looks like this.
Yes.
There it is. Can you see someone in the picture with a little grandchild down in Malakuta, Padma and Susanna?
Yes.
And me wearing my bobbly hat because it's often cold up at Cape Woolamai during shearwater and whale season.
Certainly is.
Aunty Fay, what does sitting around a fire bring up for you? What does that image reveal for you?
It's a connection to family, and it's a connection to the stories that's told around the family, by the family around that fire, because, you know, the elders are the ones that are telling the stories to the younger ones, and they are sitting there listening very quietly. And it's just that beautiful image of what family life was like for Aboriginal people, being as a collective, sitting around doing different things like playing the clapsticks or the didge and the guitar, or just listening to the song that the elder is singing to everybody, and the words that are being sung. You might be singing about the swans that are flying overhead, or something to do with what's on country at the time that they are all sitting there, what time of the year that it is. So that it's really important that everybody is listening to what's being said by the elders, because if they don't be quiet and listen while they're there, they'll miss a part of whatever story that elder is telling them and singing to them.
So you're really introducing this idea of deep listening. You look so strong in the way in which Lisa has painted you there. It's a central figure. There's a great authority there. And I think it's probably revealed in many of the contexts in which you work. You're a Koori Court elder, and I know you do cultural training for magistrates, and you're there to advocate for the young Koori kids and sometimes to be quite firm with them. So there's an enormous authority that just with a few brush strokes, Lisa, you've been able to convey with that central figure.
And I love the hair, Lise.
Yeah, yes, yes.
That was in my redhead days.
Oh, right. Yep.
Vanessa, can you keep rolling? There's some more swans.
Yeah.
And keeping on rolling, keeping on rolling. Ancestors are always with us. We've alluded that to the conversation. There we have more ocean, more eagles. Respect is the underpinning idea. And red gum leaves. Could you like to read this out, Aunty Fay, as they roll past?
For red gum leaves tumbling to parched earth. Respect for family who show us the way.
Can we hold that for a moment, Vanessa? Now, there's something you can see that the children and the family members are wearing. Lisa, can you tell us more about what that signifies, that they are actually wearing elements of country in their clothes?
Yeah, so I did that for the kids, obviously, being this story and what it's conveying, needing to be understood by very, very young children, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. So I painted the elements of country that have come before on previous pages and have been accumulating there to show that we all carry country within us. So we care for country, which and as we know, we're building up towards caring for self. So we're all one. We, us, we and country are the same.
It's a very powerful idea, Aunty Fay. I've heard you say this, that we can't care for country if we can't care for ourselves and each other.
That's right.
Can you say a little more about that? It's a really radical idea.
Well, if we don't look after country, she won't look after us, because she, you know, Mother Earth has provided for us for millennium, and it still does. And we've got to care for country, because what we see around us today is just so sad, what's happening to country. So we've got to let children know that they have to care for where they live, because they need to have that country the way it was for their children and their grandchildren.
Beautifully expressed. Thank you for that. Vanessa, can we keep rolling? Can we stop here? Next one, yes, down. That's it. Aunty Fay, can you read those words?
Our way is respect. We listen.
Why is listening important, Aunty Fay?
Well, listening as children, when elders tell us stories, if we don't listen when they are telling us a story, we miss out on part of that information and that knowledge. So that's gone forever. So we've got to listen deeply to elders, listen to the country that's around us talking to us, because it does speak to us. And that's where one of the beauties of for mental health, if you are feeling down, is just to go and find somewhere that's beautiful, sit down and just relax and let the country speak to you, whatever's around you, the trees, the ocean, the birds and the animals. And it's just that connection to country that will bring you back to where you want to be.
A profoundly healing thing.
Yes.
Lisa, you've written some beautiful words about deep listening, which I'm going to read out and then just ask you to comment on how it sounds for you when you hear it.
I'm agreeing with Aunty Fay. What you said then, Aunty Fay, is that's it about this painting, which is really the next picture.
Can we go to the next one, Vanessa?
Yeah, sitting in that beautiful place.
Listening to what's around her.
Yeah, that's it. And feet in, so immersed in.
She's still connected.
Yeah, connected.
Yep.
Mm.
And that's one of the things that a lot of our children don't have the opportunity, especially the ones that are in the city, to connect to country. You know, they need to take off their socks and shoes and just connect to Mother Earth. And that's really important for them to get that that connection right from a young age.
Sure.
I don't know that we need to read the words. What do you think, Lisa?
No,
I've got some beautiful words you've written. I think we've probably revealed it.
Don't need to, because that's it.
I'm going to ask Aunty Fay at this point, what is the relationship between language and listening and country? Why is the revival of languages so important?
Well, the language revival is very important to Aboriginal people because it connects us to country. It describes our country. It describes what's in the country. You know, we can't just have one tree or one type of tree because there's different parts of that tree that is used by Aboriginal people that is very important. And it's all that knowledge is about country that's been handed down from, you know, generation to generation by the elders. They are the knowledge holders, and they are passing on that knowledge about country to our younger ones, and it's very important that that keeps going.
And you've taught me how there are protocols we need to follow. We can't just go to a dictionary, an Aboriginal dictionary, and use those words and make our own material from it. We need to build relationships of respect. I'm wondering whether in this moment, given all these beautiful people are being gifted this knowledge by you and Lisa at the moment, whether we could take a moment to actually have an opportunity to say some language and know that we have an auntie who is deeply embedded in this country, whose ancestors walked this land. We're going to learn 3 words with Aunty Fay's permission. And the first word is the word for listen. And I'm wondering, Aunty Fay, whether you could say that word for us.
Certainly. It's Nangada. Nangada.
Okay, we're going to have a moment now where we're going to say this word Ngangada together. So it starts right at the back of your throat, Aunty Fay, with the sound, which is unusual for us in English, isn't it? We're used to finishing a word like sing, but we're saying Ngangada. Can you say it one more time, Aunty Fay?
Ngangada.
There you go. Ngangada. Can you all say it? Ngangada. Wonderful. So we know that Paul Payton, who was the CEO of the Victorian Aboriginal Corporation for Languages, where Aunty Fay still works, says as soon as you say one word, you've moved into another culture. So you all have now moved into Bunurong country with Aunty Fay's blessing. Now there's a word for country and a word for earth, Aunty Fay. Can you tell us what that is?
The word for earth is bik, bik, and the word for country, for big earth, is bik, bik.
You say it twice.
Yes.
So should we just say the word for country? Can you say it one more time?
Bik.
Let's all say it. Bik. Okay. And the word for earth is?
Bik, bik.
Let's all say it. Bik, bik. And so if we were to go listen to country, how would it sound, Aunty Fay?
Nangada, bik, bik.
Let's all say it. Ngangada, bik, bik. And again, Aunty Fay?
Nangada, bik, bik.
We'll say it together again. Ngangada, bik, bik. Beautiful. And the third word we're going to learn tonight is the word for sing. Now, the deaf signing word is it starts here and it goes out in waves, further and further. What's the word for sing in Bunurong, Aunty Fay?
It's yingada. Yingada.
Let's all say it. Yingada. Yingada. So, Aunty Fay, if we were to say listen to the earth and sing, listen, earth, sing, how would that sound?
Nangada, bik, bik, yingada.
Here we go. We're going to do this together. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. Now we're going to have a go at singing this. We're going to see if we can get the technology working. And feel yourself being welcomed into country, because Aunty Fay has told me when the country hears us singing, it wakes up and says, thank you, becomes more alive. For the call of the wild, far and wide, we listen to the earth. For the call of the wild, far and wide, we sing to the earth. Here we go. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. Let's do it again. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. We listen to the earth. We sing to the earth. Here we go. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. Again. We listen to the earth. We sing to the earth. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. Last time. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. And in deaf signing, because we couldn't hear you, but we know you were there. This is how you clap. Aunty Fay, how does that feel, knowing that there were all these people singing your language, many of them on Bunurong country?
I'm sure country and the ancestors are just thrilled to bits to hear the language spoken again after so many years. That's, you know, we might just start with 3 or 4 words, but it's a start, and it's a start that our ancestors have been looking for so many years, because it has been denied them. So with our reclamation of language, it's coming alive again, slowly, but it's coming there, and it's getting passed on to our next generation.
It's such a beautiful thing you say, because it was denied. It was illegal, in fact, to speak
Yes,
language. Same thing happened in First Nation countries all over the world, and the generosity, Aunty Fay, of you and your fellow elders in passing this on against the backdrop of colonisation is very inspiring and crunches my heart, and I feel deeply grateful. I'm wondering now whether we can open up the conversation to include your voices, all of you who have been listening. And so now is the time for you, if you've got a comment or feedback or something you would like to either say or ask Aunty Fay or Lisa about creative collaborations, about connection to country, about revival of language, about deep listening. Now is your moment. And so I'm going to just put on that song again, which Ruth Chambers and I have sung many, many times. And while that's happening, if you've got something you want to say in the chat, can you do it now? And if you don't want to do that, just have a stretch, because you know the adult concentration span is 17.5 minutes. So you've been going a lot longer than that. So just have a little wriggle, reoxygenate your system, feel those words coursing through you. And we're just going to be still for about a minute while we see what kind of questions come in. Thank you so much, Aunty Fay and Lisa. For the call of the wild, far and wide, we listen to the earth. For the call of the wild, far and wide, we sing to the earth. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. Listen to the earth, we sing to the earth. Ngangada, big, big, yingada. We listen to the earth, we sing to the earth. Vanessa, are you reading the chats? We've had a couple of requests to stop the screen share and to move back to gallery view. And would it be possible that we see everybody's face? I can see the questions. I just love to see at least one screen. Here you all are. Hi, Elsa, how lovely to see you. Down in Brighton. I know I can't hear you, but it's lovely to see you. So I'll let Vanessa do that. And I've got a question here from Jenny. Aunty Fay, she's asked, where can I find that song and the music, as I work in a kindergarten and would love to be able to share this with the children. So now we come to the issue of protocols and how we do this respectfully. I'm happy to say something, but I'd love you to start.
Okay, first of all, protocols for using language. You need the permission from elders to do it. And when you've got that permission, I would gladly give it to you to teach, with Laura's permission, to teach the song with the language in it.
Thank you so much. So you can see Ruth Chambers. I'd love to see your faces. Vanessa, if it's possible to bring up faces, I'd love that. Ruth is currently using that song with Wonthaggi North Primary and doing some collaborative work with Aunty Fay. There you are. And so Ruth, who's worked for many years up in the top end, understands very much the respect that's required to do this work. And we're very, very lucky to have someone as generous as Aunty Fay there. So Jenny, there is your answer. From my perspective, the song is up on Laura Brearley's SoundCloud. There are all the harmonies there. Lisa's waving to somebody.
My brother Martin.
Oh, down in Tasmania.
Yeah, he's in Tassie, and he's the one that swam in the gutter with me. Yeah.
How lovely, how lovely. Welcome, Martin. We've been in your home. You're a fantastic musician yourself. Okay, so that's a little word about protocols. Love hearing the stories and speaking the language from Susanna and Padma. So both of Susanna and Padma have done beautiful collaborations with both Lisa and Aunty Fay. Beautiful dancer, beautiful musician, beautiful people.
I would like to send them my love to everybody in Malakuta.
Yeah. Aunty Fay has deep connections with Malakuta, Padma and Susanna. And our hearts go out to you all. We understand the long road of recovery ahead and the way in which your art making is contributing to that process of recovery.
And can I add to that too?
Yes.
A special thank you to Padma for keeping song and language alive as well, because
Yes.
Padma is, I'm still having conversations with Padma about song making, and he's Padma, you are so respectful in the way you collaboratively work, and we love you both.
Aunty Fay, someone has asked, is it possible to learn more, even simple things like greetings, hello and goodbye? Are you able to share those words with us?
We don't say goodbye in our language. We say see you later, which is Neren Murunbuna. Neren Murunbuna.
Can we break it down word by word? So Neren
Murunbuna.
Murunbuna.
That's right.
And one more time, just so it's in our bodies. One more time, Aunty Fay, when we say goodbye, because we'll say it at the end of our Zoom.
Neren Murunbuna.
Neren Murunbuna.
That's it.
I can see people writing it down. Ruth, you've got it in your head, haven't you? You're listening. That's right. You listen. Neren Murunbuna. Thank you. Is there a word for hi?
Kia.
Kia.
Kia. Kia.
Kia.
Yes.
Kia. And does people remember what the word for goodbye was? Let's try it again.
Neren Murunbuna.
Sorry, I'll be quiet. You say it one more time.
Neren Murunbuna.
Neren Moran Una. Can you say something, Aunty Fay, about the way in which we see the language recorded in English letters, Arabic letters, and what was happening at the colonisation, the days of early days when some of the sociologists and ethnographers were recording it? Can you speak about that and the way in which that's impacted on the way we hear some of the words now?
Well, the different people that collected our languages were either Scottish, German, English, Dutch. So the way they heard it, it's the way they wrote it down. So we've had to go through those words, each word, and look at it like a forensic audit to find out which way we want to spell the word, because they're all different. And then go from there and use a linguist to assist us with the spelling of the word.
It's
And
so interesting. The Scottish person will hear it very different from the German person.
That's right. That's where the double R's, that we roll the R's like the Scots do, like Moran Buna.
Moran Buna.
And Nerren.
Nerren. Nerren.
Nerren.
Nerren. Now, we've got someone who is called H Diggers, but I reckon you've got something H. Hello, H Diggers. Talking language and culture is a step further to show our global connection. In Indonesian, the language for bird is burung, many birds, burung, burung, similar to usage in Bunurang languages.
That's right.
Thank you. What's the word for bird in Bunurang, Aunty Fay?
Guip. And for birds, it's guip, guip.
Guip, guip.
That's right.
It sounds really birdy, doesn't it?
It does.
So lots of birds. Guip, 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 guip.
I can hear Padma singing that.
Oh, Padma did a fantastic song.
We'd love.
Oh.
That was just beautiful.
Oh, we loved it.
Now, Hua Tian to everyone. It was so great experience we had a couple of years ago in the Cows Library to celebrate the culture show, and took part in the parade with Laura, listening to the beautiful songs and other things. Thank you very much. Oh, wow, I'm glad you remember all that. It's a wonderful community that we are part of, and how lucky are we to have Lisa down there in South Gippsland with her deep links to Trawlwool Way, which has very, very strong connections to this part of the world, topologically. It was only 12,000 years, wasn't it, Lisa, that people were walking across the Bassian Plains between Tasmania and Flinders Island and here?
Yes.
They were hunting grounds. So we're going to wind it up. Much as we would love to keep going, you've got lives to lead, and we're going to finish with a blessing, really, from Aunty Fay and a blessing from Lisa. Many years ago, Lisa and Aunty Fay and I were sitting in the library at VACL, the Victorian Aboriginal Corporation for Languages, and I wonder if you've had the experience sometimes where you feel like someone is suddenly speaking from a very deep place. It's like it's just coming through them. And Aunty Fay began doing that. And because I'm a researcher, with her permission, I began writing it down as fast as I could, because she was so eloquent and it was just flowing out of her. So with her help, we have edited it. And this is her blessing to finish us off with tonight, called Heartbeat of the Earth.
The past is still coming through the language. It's the heartbeat of the earth. When you speak, when you sing, when you listen to the birds, you're hearing the past as it flows into the future. The past is still very much alive. On country, you feel home. When you're walking on country, you feel the heartbeat of the land, and you belong. You need to take off your shoes and socks and feel that connection. Just sit, listen to the birds speak, and let the country speak to you. Once you hear it, it's there all the time. You understand who you truly are. You are transformed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aunty Fay.
Thanks, Aunty Fay.
Very profound words. Lisa, do you have those words in front of you? Nothing is lost.
No.
If you haven't, I can read them on your behalf, knowing they're yours.
Nope.
It's page 4
I've
of
got
our
them here,
conversation framework.
I've got them here,
Conversation
Laura.
framework is buried under a pile of books.
No problems. Would you mind if Aunty Fay read out your blessing?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, nothing is lost. The old people say, remember to listen. There is a bigger creative spirit at work. The stories are not lost. Nothing is lost. The old people know how important it is to carry the stories into the future. There is hope. There is always hope.
And that's the note on which we're going to end. There is still hope. There is always hope. And we are carrying these stories thanks to you and to people like Aunty Joy Murphy, Aunty Patsy Cameron. I saw Safina Stewart is with us, her mother, Aunty Dosina, Uncle Anthony. There are very beautiful people who are enabling us to carry the richness of these stories forward. I want to thank very much Island Story Gatherers for inviting us to be part of this session. I want to thank all of you for giving an hour of your time at the end of the day to listen fully. I want to thank Aunty Fay for her stories, for the gift of her language, for the gift of her life and her friendship. I want to thank Lisa for your beautiful creative spirit, for the laughter, for all the work we've done together and will do together in the future. Aunty Fay or Lisa, is there anything you would like to say before we say goodbye?
Oh,
I'd just like to say, make sure that you listen to country because it'll talk to you.
absolutely.
Take that. It's talking, you just got to listen.
That's it.
Lisa?
Oh, that's it. And especially at the moment, there's so many opportunities to do that now. But of course, when we're all feeling a bit stuck and inside and whatever, it's all the more reason to talk to yourself, tell yourself to stop, go outside and let everything go and just sit there and wait. And that's how you become open. Becoming open is a thing in itself, because you can't hear unless you're open. So,
That's so beautiful. There's this wave, I don't know if you can see it, Aunty Fay and Lisa, of thank yous, of gratitude, deep gratitude to you for what you have shared. She adores, Meg adores the Book Respect, we all do. Aunty Fay, can you take us out with the Bunwarang word for goodbye? Can you say it one more time and we'll say goodbye, and then Vanessa, I think you're going to press goodbye. See you later. See you later.
Neren Moran Bona.
Neren Moran Bona.
That's it. Neren Moran Bona.
Neren Moran Bona. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
And thank you.
thank you very much, everyone. Enjoyed it. It's beautiful. Barney Faye, love you.
Love you too, Lise. Lovely to see you, doll.
Love you, Ruth. Love you, Inika.
Mark,
Love you, Ann Davey. Love you, Marglin. Love you, Susan.
Camden.
Love you, Jeff Ellis. Love
Everyone
you,
else
Lois Gaskin. Love you, Kylie Lindorf. Love you, Jane.